Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Who dares awaken me from my slumber? Dan, Drew, and Chente. Very interesting. This must mean something important is brewing up. You even brought me something to indulge myself on. I really do need to feast. Absolutely delicious. I do appreciate you, Dan, Chente, and Drew for allowing me to replenish lost nutritional value. And now that you've released my silver chains and shackles, are you ready to take a walk into the madness?
My creatures of the night, once again, you are tuning in to Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. We do have three amigos already waiting around the late night fire in the Fox Den as we again burn the timber into the midnight hours. I, of course, am referring to, yes, Speak in Code. You should recognize that, Drew and Chente, and also our buddy Dan, who has some pretty interesting information for us tonight. Yes. How are we doing, everybody? Are we getting ready to roll into the madness or what?
Definitely.
Yeah, man. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, super pumped.
I love it. All right, to the audience, what we're going to do is Dan's had some pretty interesting howls he's submitted to myself and the North American Dogman project up here in New England. I still, to this moment, can't get them verified as to what it is. Pretty gnarly stuff. Also, it tends to come around when he's just outside, hanging around on his deck. Pretty gnarly stuff. Yet, what we're going to do is let Dan dive into some of his thoughts on this and also give us a little bit of a rundown as to when this all started and what really piqued his interest. Yet, to the audience, if you want to hear any of the howling submissions that Dan has sent to us, go down to the playlist right below us here, all right? And you're going to be able to find those howls. Check them out. Yet, Dan, I'm going to toss you the mic, man.
All right. Well, this all started about 5 years ago when I was living in Wyoming County, New York. My family and I had been in our old house. We don't currently live there anymore, but we had been there for about 6 months when we started hearing these really weird howls that were coming from across the road from us. And at first we just thought it was a dog. As I started getting into different podcasts and listening to different recordings on YouTube, specifically ones that I had listened to on this channel, I started thinking otherwise because I was listening to one that you had posted a while back about, I think it was howls that were recorded back in the mid 90s down in land between the lakes down in Tennessee. They sounded very similar to the ones that I was hearing. And that's when I submitted my recordings to you to get your take on them. The area that I was hearing these sounds coming from was about a half a mile across the road from me, and anytime I would hear them, it sounded like they were maybe 50 feet away from me. What's also interesting is this is the same area that I've actually gotten possible Sasquatch vocalizations from, and I've come to believe, and I have been told, that there have actually been known cases where Sasquatch and Dogman actually coexist with each other in the same area. And I've done a little bit of research on Dogman. I admit I don't know a whole lot about them. It seems that they go back a lot farther than what a lot of people realize. I've read stories about what they call the cynocephali back in ancient Greece. And according to legends, Alexander the Great, when he was taking or attempting to conquer the known world at the time, when he was going through India, supposedly ran or came across a tribe of cynocephali. Now, I don't know, of course, obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know how accurate that information is, but I find it very interesting that these creatures, there's been historical documentation of these creatures way back then. You've also got the ancient Egyptians with their god Anubis, who was the god of the underworld and had the body of a man and the head of a jackal. I find it very interesting that all this information dates back to basically prehistory. And then one of the interesting, I don't know if you would call it a myth or a legend, because the only information I can find out about it is online. And it's the story of Saint Christopher, who is the patron saint of travelers, and he's always depicted with the head of a dog. From what I read, there's many different stories to this, but from what I've read, he had the head of a dog. He was, unusually tall and was super strong. But I'm paraphrasing here.
It's all epic stuff right there. Seems like you've been doing some pretty great research right there. What I will say too is I'm a big cynocephala guy myself, yet recently I've had some really brilliant people that work with me at the Midnight Society showing some pretty good information that could add a little bit of contradiction to the cynocephala, meaning there's a chance that it was lost in translation, that it actually shouldn't have been cynocephaly. And there's also potential other aspects of people looking down upon other people, meaning if they were wearing animal skins and such because they were more wilderness based, and then you had the Romans, and then they come down, well, they could not really look upon them as equivalents. So they could also then solidify by adding an animal characteristic that you are now less human. I know that the SS had done that at points in time, calling their enemies like reptile people and such, just to, again, try and take away the human aspect of it. Brilliant stuff right there. Yet, before we continue real quick, Chente, starting with you and then tossing it over to Drew. First, what do y'all think about that?
That was great. Rocking it. The same thing. I've heard about that. I've also seen pictures depicting him with the dog head as well, and like his robes and all that. So that was really interesting that you said that, because not too many people bring that up. So have you had like squatch noises as well? Sasquatch noises?
Yes, I have, and they were coming from the very same area that I was hearing the Dogman howls come from, which I find very interesting because I have heard from a few different Dogman slash Sasquatch researchers that there has been evidence of Dogman and Sasquatch coexisting with each other in the same areas. On the flip side, I've also heard other stories about Dogman and Sasquatches not getting along with each other at all, but I also think that depends on I don't know, personalities. I definitely find it interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I have to check out those howls that you caught and you sent in. But let's see what the codester has to say.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'll definitely check those out. This is sick, man. I'm so pumped to like hear more about these stories and like close encounters and stuff. I've not that I lack of knowing them, but I'm like looking more into them for sure. The cynocephaly, I honestly never even heard of those. So I was like, what is that? I made a little note just in case so I can look into those later. But I like the idea of the Anubis thing too. I was even mentioning it to Kenny earlier. It's weird that they even have it in like a video game where there's like Assassin's Creed where you get to go to the underworld. You're around all these random like Anubis, and there's bigger ones and smaller ones, and they actually turn into like hunting you and stuff too. You mentioned the sounds and the house, and I'll definitely check those out right after this. So I've heard that tigers have like a certain growl, and it almost like gets to the point of like making you feel a certain way, or like um, I guess some people would say like it pauses you in your tracks. It almost like calms you down. But then I've also heard of other people saying like it can paralyze you. So the growl or the snarl or any type of noise from a tiger can make you feel a certain way. Do you know if you could feel a certain way from like hearing those howls and like being able to decipher the difference with I mean, I know it's like being nervous and stuff, but um would you be able to describe like how you felt at that time?
Best way I could describe it was basically excited and nervous at the same time, if that makes any sense. Because anytime I heard the sounds, I was always out on my back porch and I was basically hearing them at least every other day. So it's something that I kind of got used to. But every once in a while, there would be one that would be like super loud. And if I wasn't paying attention, I'd almost jump out of my chair. But it never really made me scared to live in the area. It actually made the area more interesting to me, if that makes any sense.
Yes, definitely. That was another question I had for you. Like, would it have been something where you're like, did you ever have the urge to go look for it, or you're like you heard it and you're like, I'm on my porch. I could just go right inside. I could hear it from a distance. I don't need to go searching for it. Or did you have any like curiosity to like, hey, I gotta go find this thing, or at least go look for the tracks the next morning so that way it's daytime?
Oh no, I'm definitely the type of person that I I got very curious about it, but unfortunately, the area that the sounds were coming from, I didn't know who owned the plot of land in the woods, so I didn't really get a chance to go exploring that area. Believe me, if I did have permission to be over on that property, I would have been there first chance I got.
I could totally understand. Like you're like, I don't want to go over in their property and start more trouble or looking around for stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And I also at the same time didn't want to have them look at me like I'm, this guy's crazy for, believing in this stuff. And I know I shouldn't have felt like that. I should have just gone around and asked, but it was still cool just being able to hear the sounds and get the recordings that I did.
No, those are super gnarly. And first off, thanks for the love, Dan. I appreciate you. And to anybody out there, if you do want to learn more, that's what I try to do, is get up as much information as I possibly can. Go down to the playlist. You got Dogman potential howling. You got potential Dogman information. I like to use the word potential because as a journalist, yes, potential. Check them all out down there. We have potential tracks, footage, all this great stuff. Yet Chente got a chance to listen to Dan's creepy howling, which is pretty gnarly for sure. And while Drew's getting a chance to listen to them, we're going to have Chente pop back up in here and see his thoughts with Dan.
Yo, dude, I don't even know. Those are wild. How did you get the nerve to record those, first of all?
Well, basically, like I said before, when I first started hearing them, we originally thought it was just a neighbor's dog or something, but the louder they became and the more consistent they became, I knew it was something more than that, and I knew that I had to get a recording of them, just for my own peace of mind and curiosity. And I actually feel very fortunate that I got those recordings, because most of the time, anytime I would be outside hearing them and would even attempt to start recording them with my phone, they would just stop, and I wouldn't hear them again for the rest of the day. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to get those recordings.
Yeah, those are the type of ones you wish it's a dog. Kind of reminds me of like I grew up with a lot of bobcats like around the mountains and everything, and they have a certain howl screech thing they do after a while. I wasn't expecting that sound from them. I don't know. What about you, Kenny? How do you feel about them?
I mean, it's super gnarly stuff for sure. I am not an expert in animal vocalizations whatsoever, yet I do know I sent them out to people that are experts in this. They are pretty baffled and have not been able to fully put them in the category yet. I've also, like Dan said, I've heard of them potentially maybe collaborating with Dogman. I've been working on a hypothesis that I would like to push into a theory that I believe the potential Dogman started off over in Europe, whereas the Sasquatch is more Native American based here in North America. When the first settlers come over in Michigan and such, they were from France. Did they bring this down from Canada when they came down as well, like the supposed Dogman itself or the werewolf curse? I don't know. I find it fascinating. I do know there's something to Europe and the Dogman and definitely werewolves, and then there's something to North America with the Sasquatch. Bizarre for sure. Yeah, Drew, what do you think about anything that Dan set up to this point? And also, what do you think about those howls, dude?
The house, it kind of reminded me of the scene from American Werewolf in London when they're at the when the one guy's going down the subway and all of a sudden he just hears that wow, and it's not only echoing from a distance but it's echoing through the tunnels. It almost reminded me of like something like that. Like I could barely, I mean, I could hear it, but it was like it seemed like it was constant. It wasn't just like a one and done type thing. It was just like constant, like either um I'm in pain or I'm hunting something. And this is the warning I'm giving you the entire time I'm tracking you.
Yeah, super gnarly stuff right there for sure. Pretty interesting. Could somebody be running around Dan's area blasting the vocalization from American Werewolf in London? People are Looney Tunes? Yeah, sure, I guess. Yet, I don't know, man. How would they know every time Dan's going outside and such to even do this? So bizarre for sure. What are you thinking over there, Dan?
Good question. And I did do a little snooping around that area, later on when I was hearing these noises, trying to debunk them. You know, I was thinking to myself, could this be a normal dog that's just really loud? And the only dogs that I saw in that area were labs, and to the best of my knowledge, labs don't make sounds like that.
Interesting. I definitely wouldn't have been looking. Personally, I'm like, I'm good. I'm on my porch. I'm going back in if it starts getting closer.
And something else I would like to mention is that I hear a lot of these stories of dogmen that I hear they come across as vicious. I can understand that they probably be pretty intimidating to encounter them in the wild. But my personal belief is I don't like to think that every dog man is vicious or out to hurt people. Part of this ties into my Sasquatch research. From what I've researched about Sasquatch, there actually is a what what I would call a subspecies of Sasquatch called the Gugway. And this subspecies, instead of having a human-like face, it has more of a pronounced, almost like a muzzle, like a baboon, and pointed ears. And the pictures I've seen of it online, I can understand why people would, possibly mistake that as dog-like. And from what I've read, that's all. They are also more aggressive than just your regular run-of-the-mill Sasquatch is, where they tend to be fairly peaceful. The Gugway tends to be very, very territorial and aggressive towards people. And the more I read about them, the thought kind of crossed my mind, are some of these aggressive dogman encounters that people are reporting, are they actually encountering dogman, or are they possibly encountering this Gugway and they just don't realize it? Does that make any sense to anybody?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I love how you actually chimed into that. We're working on that with a good old Midnight Society science team, trying to figure out if the devil monkey slash a baboon like Dogman is, being mixed in with the Gugway for sure. So those are some great acknowledgments. Chente and Drew, what are you guys thinking?
I'm looking up Gugway right now. I never heard of this thing. This is crazy. You're like describing my nightmares in person.
Uh,
Yeah, I never heard of that either. That's really interesting. And the way you pointed out that they can misinterpret that is pretty interesting too, because if you could just see four legs and a tail from a distance, immediately it's a dog to a lot of people. And they could just, misinterpret that as dog man.
yes, again, a great acknowledgement right there for sure. Dan, do you have anything else you would like to share, or any questions for myself or Chente or Drew before we hear his thoughts on the Gugway and grab everybody's final thoughts?
Not that I can think of. I just know that this is a very interesting topic, that's for sure.
Dude, this Gugway thing just blew my mind. That and like a Jenna squaw. Have you guys ever heard of that thing? I'm like,
Yes.
what in the world is going on? I've never heard of these things, and they're like, they make so much sense. Like for people to definitely get those confused with a dogman, or maybe that is a dogman. I mean, it's not even. It looks similar to Bigfoot, but it also looks very dog baboon like too.
From what I've learned about the Genesqua, that is ties in with the Iroquois Native Americans, which were very and still are very prevalent around my area of New York. And they also nicknamed them the Stone Giants because, according to the Iroquois folklore, this species of Bigfoot was known for covering its fur in like tree sap and mud and clay and letting it harden. And that way, the Iroquois warriors' arrows weren't able to pierce its skin.
Dan, the man, you've done research, my brother. That you're bringing up lore, my man.
Oh, yes. I've always believed that, Native Americans had their beliefs for a reason, and they survived with their beliefs and coexisted with their beliefs for centuries.
Brilliant stuff again by everybody right there. Yeah, it's all pretty interesting. There's so much that's going on that as a journalist, I'm just trying to collect the analytics, the analysis, really trying to put it all together to the audience. As stated, if you check out the playlist down below, potential Dogman vocalizations, that's where you can hear what Dan has submitted to us. We will try to get Dan back on when he has a little bit more time or when more unfolds for him. Yeah, until then, he is a busy guy and has allotted some time to kick it with us tonight. Also, same thing with Chente and Drew. You can check out the playlist down below. Yet we are going to let Chente and Drew give themselves, as JJ Messenger says, the shameless plug and let everybody know where they can find them and what they're going to be up to.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for having us on. I've had a blast. You can check us out at the Speak and Code podcast. It's spelled SPEAKINCOAD, all one word. Other than that, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Kenny. This has been a blast, man. I've had a lot of fun, and I needed that nap. I had to come in clutch with the energy today, so I wanted to make sure I was wide awake for this one. So thank you so much for having us, Kenny. Dan, thanks for sharing your story, man. This was awesome.
My pleasure. And I'll definitely have to check out your channel as well.
Yeah, Dan, thank you, man, for coming through and hooking us up with your story. That was really interesting. It gave me something to fill my weekend with, for real, looking up all that stuff you just dropped on us. Kenny, thank you for having us on, man. It's always a pleasure coming through. You could hit me up on the Speaking Code. Check us out. But Drew he has merch now, so hit us up and rep it out.
I will definitely do that.
Oh, heck yeah. I actually just sent you their thread on YouTube, Dan. Easy to check it out when I get on the good old laptop later. I think I already have you guys up on my suggestion page. If I don't, under the Midnight Society, I'll get that up sooner than later for sure after I start editing this tonight. And of course, it's always good to link up with y'all. Anytime you want to come chill, let me know. I know you are both pretty busy. I've been cranking out stuff every day for the most part. So I will touch base with y'all for sure in a week or so, and we'll definitely get some more things cranked out. Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for kicking us with us tonight, man. And I look forward to linking up again here soon, eh?
Oh, thank you for having me. This was a blast. To be honest, it's been a while since I've gotten to do this kind of stuff. So it feels really good to get back out there.
Yes, it is. Excellent. Glad we could be of assistance for you for sure. And Chente and Drew, my dudes, again, thanks for kicking this with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny.
No problem.
My creatures of the night, you legends, you. I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the truth to the algorithm. And remember, there are creatures that lurk in the shadows.